Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and this is Thursday, March 4th. We are here for our Westchester coronavirus update, but we're located remote at the restaurant O Mandarin on Central Park Avenue, located in the Hartsdale section of the town of Greenburgh, just across the street from the dotted line with White Plains. We're here because at this restaurant site, we met almost a year ago at the time of the original outbreak of the Westchester coronavirus that first hit Westchester just a year ago. And at that time, we saw incidences of prejudice that was tied to the outbreak of the virus. We saw prejudice-directed anti-Semitism toward the Jewish community, given the first few individuals that were diagnosed with the disease, and also to the Asian American community because the original outbreak was identified with Wuhan, China. And the response that Westchester County has then and now is to step up against prejudice in any form, against any group of Americans. And we view each of us as our brothers and sisters, that we are together in this country, and we are here together to have all of our boats rise, those of us of any ethnic background. Now, we've spoken many times about prejudice against the African American community, the Latinx community, but we've watched here in the New York metropolitan area a rise in hatred against Asian American individuals. And it doesn't matter whatever the country of origin that individuals come from, that is prejudice against you, not because of who you are as a person, but because of your ethnic identity. And we believe that that's wrong, and we're here today to make a statement at O Mandarin against that. I'm joined by a number of people, and you're going to hear from them, a number of them as well. The owner of this terrific restaurant, O Mandarin, Peter Liu. Tejash and Sanchala, who's the executive director of our Westchester County Human Rights Commission. The Reverend Doris Dalton, who is the chair of the County Human Rights Commission. Bob Chao, who's the vice president of advocacy for OCA, which represents many Asian Americans of the Chinese community, Westchester and Hudson Valley, and he's here representing Grace Pan, who is the president of that group, and Bill Kong, also with OCA, and is also a member of our Asian American Advisory Board. Now, last year, for the first time in the history of the county, we created 2 additional advisory boards that represent parts of our community that have been previously unrepresented with a voice at the table. Where we have in the past had an African American and a Hispanic American advisory boards, we created one for the Arab American community and one for the Asian American community, and many of their representatives are with us here today. I want to recognize Nandini Anandu from the advisory board, Marjorie Shu, Vincent Young, and Bhavana Pawa, all of whom are on the Asian American Advisory Board. They had a meeting last night with our new district attorney, Mimi Roca, who laid out her plans to deal with prejudice, reflecting really all ethnicities, but in this particular case, to Asian Americans. And we are trying very hard now, using the Human Rights Commission, our district attorney, our local police department, to deal with these issues, deal with them swiftly, and deal with them effectively. So I have a series of folks that I want to share a few thoughts, and because it's a little cold and windy out here, you can see I'm well overdue to getting my hair cut. That's the price you pay when you don't stay on schedule. But I'd like some of these folks to speak, and then I'm going to blissfully let them find a warmer place to stay while I give you the formal update of where we are in numbers and in policies relative to this the coronavirus outbreak. But first, our host here, the owner of O Mandarin, Peter Liu, who is a prominent businessman in the business community as well as in the Asian American community, and he has a terrific restaurant. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Latimer, for being here today, and thank you everyone who attend this event today. We are pleased to welcome you all to O Mandarin. Our Asian community and I are very happy that you could be here to address this series of disturbing events towards the Asian community. It pains me, it pains all of us here to hear about senseless violence has happening recently. People need to understand, no matter our color, our region, our gender, or our religion, we need to support each other, especially during these trying times. I've been a business owner here in Westchester County for over 10 years. At O Mandarin and our Asian community, in just the last year, we have donated countless hours, meals, and PPEs to those in need and to our frontline workers. We'll continue to do so. It's our aim to help the community to join forces with our community and, of course, to grow the community. We all came from different backgrounds, and our differences should unite us, not tear us down. We have interest in Westchester County and know that Westchester County have invested in us. Our hope at Old Mandarin is that we all stand up to hate and continue to support one another. We have been through so much for the past year. Hate will not save us. Unity will save us. With the great news every day with the progress of vaccine, we have seen a light in the tunnel. Instead of hate, we should be more patient and united. Let's cheer and celebrate all together once all is done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Next, we'd like to hear from Tejash and Chao, who's the Executive Director of our Westchester County Human Rights Commission.
Thank you, County Executive. Since the beginning of the pandemic, there have been over 3,000 reported hate incidents across the nation against Asian Americans. The Asian American community is being targeted because of anger, misinformation, and political rhetoric connected to the pandemic. Attacks against Asian Americans are not new. I and many who look like me were victims of hate after 9/11, when there was a huge spike in hate incidents against Asian Americans. An attack against one of us is an attack against all of us. Under the county executive's leadership, the Human Rights Commission has worked to combat hate against the Asian American community since the beginning of the pandemic. The commission has created an online reporting tool, enabling the community to report hate incidents anonymously. The community can report hate incidents to the commission through this online portal, by phone, and by email. And I want to emphasize, the 3,000 incidents that have been reported throughout the country are just the incidents that we know about. Studies have shown there's significant underreporting about hate incidents throughout the country, and we need your help to report these incidents. And while we have not heard and we are not aware of an incident like what's happened in New York City involving physical violence, or in Oakland or in Texas, it's very important to report these incidents, because hate incidents can escalate into a hate crime involving physical violence. And if you think about this 3,000 number that have been reported throughout the country, that averages out to 8 incidents a day, one approximately every 3 hours. And I'm reminded of an op-ed in the LA Times that actor Chao wrote last year that remains timely today, unfortunately. You can't stand up for some and not for others. And like the virus, unchecked aggression has the potential to spread wildly. Please don't minimize hate or assume it is somewhere far away. It is happening close to you. If you see it on the street, say something. If you hear it at work, say something. If you sense it in your family, say something. Stand up for your fellow Americans. The Human Rights Commission wants to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tejash. And now the chair of our Human Rights Commission, Reverend Doris.
Thank you, County Executive, and thank you, Peter Liu, who is the owner of my family's favorite Chinese restaurant in this area. I hope it's okay for me to say that. Greetings, friends. I'm so glad to be with you all this afternoon. I am the chair of the Human Rights Commission for the county. This morning, I was reminded of a text from Isaiah that is talking about how we can beat our swords into plowshares. And I'm reminded also that the words that we use when we discriminate against Asian Americans, or call them names that don't belong to them, or use words that hurt or harm, those are also weapons of words. And they hurt not only Asian Americans who are targeted by these words and these actions, but all of us, because they tear into the moral fabric of our society that we share together. So let me just remind you one more time, instead of using our words, our weapons of words, to tear into the moral fabric of our society that we share together, we can instead beat those swords into plowshares and plant seeds that nourish our fabric, the fabric of our society together. So here are some things I would plant, and I would urge you to also plant as well. Asian Americans are not responsible for the global pandemic. Asian Americans are not responsible for COVID-19. Asian Americans are not responsible for the downturn of the economy, or for our children having to be in hybrid or remote learning situations. They're not responsible for the fear and the anxiety that we have when we're trying to look for COVID-19 vaccination appointments. Asian Americans are in the same situation as many of as many of all of us, right? We are also looking for appointments. We're also working with our kids, trying to help them to learn in difficult situations. We're also looking for jobs. We're also affected by how the pandemic is impacting this entire nation. I hope that you remember these words, these wonderful words that can give us hope and promise and possibility that we can move together and stand together. So I call on all people of hope, all people of faith, all people who are looking for a society that we can call our beloved community together to stand alongside one another and to call out stereotypes that harm and that are not true. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Reverend Dalton. Next, we have Bob Chao, Vice President of Advocacy for OCA. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, I'm Bob Chao from OCA. 1 year ago, we stood in front of this restaurant, and you had a press conference on March 12th of last year. And since that time, we have seen a lot of increase of anti-Asian crimes. And Asian American Advancing Justice, an organization based in Washington, D.C., they have reported more than 3,000 cases, incidents, attack against Asian Americans since March of 2020. And in New York City, Paul Weiss, a legal firm with the help of Asian American Bar Association of New York, reported last month that there was a tenfold increase in incidents against Asian Americans. So we are in Westchester, we have to remain vigilant. We have to let people know that attacking a group of people, your neighbors, pure because of their color or their experience, that's not acceptable to all of us. And we want the Asian community to know that if they experience any anti-Asian incident, they should report to the authorities. And if they need a language support or help, please come to OCA. Again, thank you very much for your support. And you and your team and the county has continued to make Westchester a welcome community to Asian Americans. We will live here, we'll work here, we'll continue to contribute to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We have two more speakers. Bill Kong from OCA. Bill? Is ready for the cool weather we have out here.
Yeah.
I see you're double masked as required.
Yes. So, and I just got my second shot this morning.
Good.
So, thank you very much, County Executive Latimer. Yes, we are very, we are a part of a national organization of Pan-Asian, and we are, very aware, defending the civil rights of all Asian Americans. And the incident in New York City obviously also shows that all Asians, a lot of people cannot tell the difference between one another. And one incident in New York City, an Asian man was slashed across the face, and the person is from Burma. So we have to be vigilant across the board, support each other, and not just Asian, but also Hispanics and African Americans. And the Jewish community here. So I kind of get involved with a lot of these groups on the advocacy roles. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then finally, Bhavana Pawa, would you please share a few thoughts as well?
Wasn't quite prepared, but thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bhavna Pawa, and I'm a member of the Asian American Advisory Board for the Westchester County. I'm glad to be here, and I'm very honored to be a member of the board for Westchester County, and I'm hoping that our work on the board is really going to unite the Asian diaspora here in Westchester County, and also we'll be able to work and reach out and work with our brethren in the African American community and the Jewish community. Any acts of discrimination or hate or is really against humanity. It's not against any one particular person. And, we're in the 21st century now. It's about time that we discovered our humanity and we celebrated our humanity and we all came together as one. If we're going to really see this world progress. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm honored to serve on the Asian American Board for the county. Thank you.
We're very appreciative of all of our guests who are here today to share in this moment. Last month we celebrated the Lunar New Year, and I'm told this is the Year of the Ox, which represents emphasis on diligence and patience. That's exactly what our Asian American community has shown over this period of time during the pandemic and beyond that. And certainly here in Westchester, we want to send the proper message of partnership, brotherhood, and sisterhood amongst all of us, whatever our ethnic backgrounds are. As pointed out by some of our speakers, there's a significant number of rise in hate crimes by anti-Asian sentiment. It jumped significantly in New York City. We obviously are next door to New York City. We have some share of those numbers, but we're going to do everything we can working through the advisory board as they propose ideas that would help us in general public education and very specific ways to deal with the outburst of crime. Our Human Rights Commission, which we made a strong effort to revitalize under the leadership of Doris, Dalton, and Tejash and Sanchala, to serve that purpose for this community and all the other communities of Westchester County, and to try to show that Westchester County is a community that is interested in our advancement, all of our advancements, as a common people. The economic growth of this county will happen when every person feels that they have a share in it, not just some of the people. And I would say we've talked many times about entities like the Asian American community, the African American community, the Latinx community, the Muslim community, the Jewish community, all of those communities that have seen examples of hatred. But I must tell you, as a person of Irish and Italian ethnicity, I draw the same strength by knowing that those communities were once the target of hatred and prejudice. But the Irish American community and the Italian American community have become integrated into the great American family. And every one of these communities, including the Asian American community, has just as much of that opportunity to contribute and to become a part of it. This is how this country grows. This is how this county grows. This is how we rise up, the rising tide that lifts everybody's boat. And it comes when we tap the skills and the abilities of everybody, regardless of these demographic differences. And in the same way that we would push back against anti-Italian, anti-Irish, anti-Catholic sentiment, so we push back against anti-Asian sentiment. And we do that as brothers and sisters. So thank you all very much for being here on this commemoration of... It's most appropriate that I'm interrupted by a FedEx truck, since so many things have been coming through electronic purchasing these days. But we appreciate your time and energy, and I want you to get warm. So maybe you'll stop into Peter's restaurant for a few minutes. But all, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate you standing with me here today. Thank you all. So we're going to move to the more traditional part of the program and talk about our situation with coronavirus. I'm joined now by Ken Jenkins, who is our Deputy County Executive. We'll go through some of the numbers quickly. The New York State tracker is up for today, Thursday, March 4th. It shows that we have 6,019 active cases. We've seen in the last week sort of a static area around the 6,000 mark of active cases. We've gone a little below that a couple of times at the 5,900, slightly above it. The number of active cases today, 6,019, compares to a week ago, where we had 6,145 cases, somewhat more than 100 more cases. 2 weeks ago, we were at 7,030 cases, and way back on January 21st, we had 11,470 cases. So there clearly has been a diminution over the course of the 5 weeks, but we're seeing if we've now reached a bit of a plateau and how that'll happen in the weeks to come. Hospitalization numbers, the most recent number we have is as of last Tuesday, 2 days ago, 330 individuals are hospitalized for COVID. 389 a week ago, 412 2 weeks ago, and roughly a month and a half ago, on January 19th, we had 588 individuals hospitalized. So we're encouraged by the fact that there's been a drop of 250 hospitalizations from 588 down to the most recent number of 330. We have lost in the aggregate 2,116 individuals, fatalities to COVID. Our commemoration service yesterday that we held, which is online for you to watch, really deals with the emotion of that situation. In the last week, we lost 35 individuals. The week before that, we lost 40, and a month ago, we had lost 47 in a week. Every death is a tragedy. We hope that those numbers will continue to drop to the point where we have no additional fatalities. But it does show, again, that the trend line is in the positive direction, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to maintain that, continue to drop that over the next few days and the next few weeks. The vaccination numbers that go through March 3rd, the county center facility is now doing well over 2,000 vaccinations a day as one of the mega centers in the state. We've had great success in being able to vaccinate first and second shots, and now we have over 81,000 vaccinations that have been issued at the Westchester County Center. The two county clinics at Court Street and Westchester Community College have now exceeded 15,000 vaccinations. This has been, in combination, the second largest source of vaccinations, but now we have online the Yonkers facility, and as that starts to kick in, we expect to see those numbers up even more dramatically. Just through those facilities alone, 97,000 plus vaccinations. When you add in the hospitals that have vaccinated, the pharmacies that have vaccinated, the pop-ups that have vaccinated, we're approaching 150,000 vaccinations, which is an important number. And of course, so far with Pfizer and Moderna, 2 shots are included in these numbers. We will see the Johnson & Johnson product come to Westchester in the coming week. That's a 1-shot vaccine, and that will help us reach some of the harder to reach entities, such as the homebound groups and so forth. Want to mention a couple of other policies as we have here in the report. Westchester County Department of Health has issued guidance on the New York State requirements for spectators at school and recreation sports. We've had a great dramatic change, opening up high-risk sports, basketball, ultimately football and hockey, to participation. Later today, I'm going to visit my hometown Rye Garnets and watch both girls and boys sports, high-risk sports, as they're played safely. But that has opened up now to 2 individuals at each sporting event, 2 spectators per athlete at each of those sporting events. We have to continue to practice social distancing. The total occupancy is still at 50% of capacity, but now that allows mom and dad, or a parent and a sibling, to be able to come and watch the athlete participate in high school high-risk sports. That is now the policy that's in force. It has been for a few days, but we want to make sure it's clearly publicly understood. And this is a way for us to try to integrate a little bit more of our normal life back slowly, methodically, based on the numbers and based on the results of the pandemic. But we think that we're making some progress, and so we're happy to be able to allow 2 spectators per athletes back at these high school sports locations. Previously, it was only 2 spectators, for the home team only, not for the visitors. Now that opens up the doors to the visitors, but we are consistent with New York State guidance in that area. We continue to vaccinate individuals who are 65 years of age and older. I'm proud to be in that cohort. And the Johnson & Johnson shots that are coming to Westchester, we expect to get as many as 1,000 shots, which will help all of us. And I will mention that tomorrow I will get my first shot of the vaccine. Now, I could have taken it the very first day. I've been age eligible, but I really felt it was important for us to be able to show that we could vaccinate essential employees, we could vaccinate seniors that were in greater age and greater danger of the COVID virus, and also those who have underlying health issues. So now that we're starting to get those vaccinations number up, I don't feel like I'm jumping ahead of anybody else. And so I'll get my vaccine. I'll join the club with my first shot tomorrow. And I look forward to getting the second shot in due time. And like everybody else who has a shot, that we protect ourselves from the spread of this virus. The Johnson & Johnson Janssen COVID vaccine, I do want to talk about. There have been some concerns expressed about it in very general terms. When you go onto the internet, you will find any number of different people that comment in any number of different ways. You're not checking necessarily the veracity of the source. So I would just indicate that from our medical professionals, they highlight for me, and I'm going to make sure I read it so I don't misspeak, that the vaccine has been approximately 85% effective in preventing severe or critical COVID-19 cases in those 28 days after vaccination. The safety analysis included over 40,000 participants in trials over the age of 18 years of age with a 2-month median follow-up. The analysis supported a favorable safety profile with no specific safety concerns, and it was on that basis that it was approved by the federal government. The reality of the J&J situation, as with all vaccinations, is you may have some small side effects that come from that, some pain at the point of the injection, some redness of the skin. There are some potential side effects. Some people have reported a variety of different things, fatigue most notably. We'll see if it can knock me out, which it possibly can, but I try to stay awake most of the 168 hours of the week. The Janssen COVID virus has a host of different elements to it that deal with this. It is beyond my ability to read effectively and persuasively, so I encourage you to read online the substantive information, not the speculation and the Dr. Google form of medical advice that many of us find. In the issue of who is eligible for vaccinations, there have been some expansion of the eligibility core, or we're seeing that a number of other individuals in other essential work has been available to get vaccinations. Grocery stores, bodegas, supermarkets. We've worked directly with some of the unions that represent those individuals and those stores because they are up close and personal to the public in the grocery stores to make sure they're eligible. If you are a member of any of these occupational cohorts, don't get online and call to make an appointment. Go to your superior, either in your store or your place of work, if there's a union setting, to your union representatives. And these vaccinations are done through group vaccination protocols so that we're sure that we're getting all of the individuals. Exactly what we've done with police and fire. We're doing it now with education, and we'll do it as well with these additional cohorts. Hotel workers, most recently, have been added to the list. I'm going to ask Ken Jenkins to just share with us again some of the different categories and how we're dividing the different locations for the different kinds of target markets. This has really been structured by the state. The county's role is to implement the decisions made by the state. But there are a lot of places out there now, and there's a lot of different categories, 1A, 1B. So once again, I'll turn to Ken to try to sort through a little bit of this.
Thanks, George. Once again, we have the different locations where the people that are eligible continue to go to. So one, we should start with the New York State run sites. Go to the Am I Eligible link or call 1-833-697-4829. Again, 833-697-4829. At most state-run sites, anyone that is eligible, 1A, 1B, the additional categories that the county executive just talked about, essential workers, people over 65, and those with comorbidities are able to get those appointments through the Am I Eligible website. However, there are some sites that are specific to a location only. So for right now, in Westchester, the pop-up that has been the combination of FEMA and New York State at the New York State Armory opened up on for Westchester eligible residents at 8 a.m., as precisely as they said, on Wednesday. And those appointments now are open. And people are only eligible for the Westchester site there, from Westchester County at that state-run FEMA site. Pharmacies get their vaccines from both the federal government as well as New York State distribution hubs. And those pharmacies have their own internal list that you have to make an appointment at the site. So you'll see the locate providers when you go to the Am I Eligible page, but it also then points you to the pharmacy site itself to make an appointment. You can get that information also on the county website, and I'm sure that we're popping it up on the screen right now. And again, those are targeted from the pharmacies for people that are 65 and older. The pop-ups that happen around the county are targeted, as county executives pointed out many times, to underserved communities, to specific targeted groups. They'll work through the nonprofit organizations, through the churches, through civic organizations, in specific communities, in specific zip codes, and they are targeted, and they're meant to be able for those individuals to get there. There are no links for those websites for those particular pop-ups. They are targeted through those particular groups. And again, Westchester County clinics continue to be to continue to focus on the 1B and essential workers. And as the county executive continues to say, make sure that you follow the protocols by calling your individual business, your superiors, your union, etc. And those are also not open in general terms to county residents. This week, we did have an opportunity for 65 years and older at the Westchester County site, but that came right off of the county website. I misspoke and said that it was from the Am I Eligible site. It came up and popped up on the health.westchestergov.com, and that is where those individuals were able to go. But as we continue to get more vaccine in and the challenges of making sure to get those shots in arms, we certainly heard President Biden say that we should have enough vaccine for everyone by the end of May. But now the challenge is to get those shots into people's arms, and it's a tremendous challenge, and we appreciate everyone's patience through that. But as the county executive takes his shot tomorrow, we're going to continue to say that it's time to tighten up and not lighten up. We still need to make sure to continue to wear our masks, socially distance, and wash our hands. Thanks a lot, George.
Thank you, Kevin. So before we take any questions from the press, if we have any, Catherine Chaffee will let us know if we have some questions. I just want to address one more issue, and that's the issue of schools opening. There are quite a bit of parents that are very concerned that their children are having great difficulty by still being home, either remote or even in a hybrid setting, and they're lobbying very heavily to have their kids back in school 5 days a week in a normal school situation. They pointed to various studies that have been made by pediatricians and different entities around that support that point of view. Let me be clear about a few things, because I think sometimes when people are concerned about something, if they're really agitated, they look at a governmental system that operates in different buckets, and they're not necessarily sure, but they express their feelings in whatever direction there is. I believe that schools should be opened. However, New York State governor has structured opening of schools as a decision to be made by the local school superintendent and the local school board. And the governor has said that they are to do that by consulting with their parents, the teachers, and then also in coordination with the local county health department. We have, in my capacity, I've indicated to our county health department that our role as a county health department is to work with the schools as they make a decision to open to help implement the various standards that the state has created. The state's created some standards that have the capacity to be interpreted a bit differently. Our mission, when a school district says we're ready to open, is for the county health department not to go in and say you can't open, but to go in and to figure out how to open them. So it is not the county health department that will make the decision to open or close. It's the local decision made locally at that local school district. Every school district is different, has a different group of students, has different physical plant in the various schools, and it's a very difficult decision. Every Monday morning, we have a 45-minute call with various school superintendents, and I tell them all the time, I don't envy your position and the decisions that you have to make. We are here to help you do that. Different county executives in different counties may make announcements, and it may sound like they are the ones opening the schools. The county government does not have the authority to issue an order to open schools. That power belongs very clearly, it's clear in the regulations, to the local school districts. I believe it should happen, but I also know what lane we work in. A couple of weeks ago, a month ago or so, the governor gave county governments the authority to allow for high-risk sports. Prior to that decision, the governor held the authority and said, no, these sports won't occur. He made the decision at that point to allow them to happen with the approval of the county Department of Health and thereby the county government. And in those cases, we moved immediately to work with the school districts. It did not take a couple of days. It took the better part of a week, and we had to go back and forth a little bit to come up with the protocols that were necessary. But we got there, and now those sports are being played. We just told you a second ago about the change in the implementation of the rules as relates to spectators, to try to open that up a little bit. And as I mentioned previously, I intend to be at one of the high schools in a little while that will, sort of watch what's happening, see some of the protocols for myself, and then also to show that our young athletes are getting that opportunity. Some people who want their children back in school correlate the two decisions. They say, you let high school sports happen, but how come you don't let students happen? That is because the governor gave the authority to us to make the decision on high school sports. They did not give the decision to the county government on opening schools. That decision remains with the local school district. Now, this may seem sort of difficult to understand. We don't expect even the most intelligent individuals to go out and get a graduate degree in government. But New York State government is structured in a way where there are different levels of government that have different authority. You do not go to your village offices and ask them to do something about the county bus system. The county government runs the bus system. The village might advocate, they might say something about it to those of us in the county government, but the bus system isn't run by the village government. And then when somebody says, I don't like to see a building going up on that piece of land, we have to stop it at zoning or planning, you come to the county government, we don't control the zoning. The village government does. It may seem like the Marquis de Sade has created this system, but this is how it is structured. And I have seen people of good spirit who are angry with people because they think we have the authority to do something which we do not. And when I try to explain it nicely, I wind up getting in some degree of conflict. It is important to understand that every one of these elements that we're dealing with the pandemic, back a year ago when businesses were all closed, when offices were closed, when people couldn't use different forms of transit, these decisions were made by each state in the union, 50 states, 50 governors, 50 somewhat separate different policies. And I found that people in Connecticut had one set of realities different from those of us in New York, different from those of us in New Jersey. I humorously said sometime last year when all the barbershops were closed in New York, my hair got about this long, and I could have gone into Connecticut to get a haircut. I didn't think that was fair pool, so I stayed and waited till New York opened up, the barbershop that I go to, and then I got the haircut that I was overdue for. I say that facetiously, but also personally, to show you that these things affect my life as they affect your life. But it's very important for us in the area of open schools. The dialogue is at the local level. There are school districts where there are groups of parents that want the schools open, but there are other parents that don't want the schools open, and the issues that deal with the teachers are part of that. These are difficult decisions being made at the local level. The county position is we will work with the school district that wants to open to help them open. We are also trying to help them open by vaccinating all teachers and other school employees, and we have made yeoman's effort to make sure that large numbers of individual teachers and other school personnel get vaccinated so they can feel safer when they're in a classroom setting. And I have to tell you, there are more teachers and educational employees than there are police, fire, and EMS in this county combined. So it is a massive task. We're trying to do our best. I hope that clears it up in people's minds. I understand that no one statement is seen by everybody, nor necessarily agreed to by everybody. But in this world where people question what is truth and what is fake, I'm telling you exactly what I know to be true, and that is exactly how we're trying to run this government, on the basis of facts and not on the basis of feelings or opinions. Are there any questions, Catherine, from the press?
There's one question from David Cropper from the Journal News. Some locals have traveled hours upstate to get a vaccine. Are you surprised people have gone such long distances for a vaccine?
Well, I am, but I understand the desire to get the vaccination. And, you know, I think the reality is if you haven't gotten a vaccination right now, what you have to appreciate is there are a couple of specific things that you should do to get it. If you go on the state website, which connects you to the mega sites that are there, you would get it if you get an appointment at the county center. If you get an appointment, I gather now, at the Armory, you can get it through that venue. The other venues that you'll see on that site would be the Javits Center in New York City, Aqueduct in Queens, Potsdam, Plattsburgh, Binghamton, Syracuse. Those are the other state mega sites, and that is one conduit to get the vaccine, but it's not the only conduit. If you are a customer of one of the various pharmacies, whether it's a chain pharmacy or a local independent pharmacy, those pharmacies are in a position to be able to give out vaccines, given the amount of allocation that they may get over certain periods of time, to their customer base. And so the second path that you would look at and take is to call your local pharmacy. If you have a relationship with your local pharmacy, you go there for your prescriptions and other things, you're on their list, they get an allocation. That's the second possible route, separate and distinct from going into the state website. Earlier in the pandemic, we advised you go into the website. It was the sole place to go. Those instructions have changed. And now the state has redirected individuals to be in touch with their local pharmacies. And the pharmacies are at this point, vaccinating people 65 years of age and older. The third conduit is through one of the essential work groups that we just spoke about. If you are police, fire, EMS, education, funeral director, you work at a center for developmentally disabled individuals, restaurant worker, hotel worker, taxi and limousine driver, bus driver, I've missed a few other occupations. You go to those who organize your occupation and indicate your interest in getting the vaccine, and then that's handled as a group. For those people who have traveled long distances, the urgency to get the vaccine, I understand the desire for it, but I would say the better strategy in the short term is to call and to be persistent. There are always cancellations at the county center, and I'm assuming the same will happen at the Armory. And what happens is you go on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and there are no vacancies available. Go back on again later. Try a third time, try a fourth time. Persistence will find, sooner or later, you'll find an opening and a vacancy. Somebody will get a vaccine, will cancel their appointment, the opening pops up, you pop in and you get it, and you can save yourself a trip to Potsdam. I have never been in Potsdam, New York. I assume it's a very nice place to go. It's a very far distance, and this is the wintertime, so my general advice would be stay in the warmth of your house, go on the computer 18 times if necessary, rather than drive to Potsdam or Plattsburgh, who are, again, very nice cities, just so we're clear about that. I don't mean to be too flip, but I do want to say we're all human beings struggling through a difficult time, and there are no easy answers for anything. We're working our way through it. It's tough for you. It's tough for everybody. We respect that you're having a difficult time. Be persistent, and you'll get what you're looking for, and I do think I rely on what the president has said. By the end of May, there should be enough vaccines for everybody, and we'll be well beyond this. Are there any other questions, Catherine? Very good. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate your time. We'll be back on Monday for another update. We'll go over the numbers then. We look forward to having some other individuals with us on some other topics that tie into COVID or are separate from COVID. But in the meantime, stay safe. I'm George Latimer, County Executive. Have a good weekend.